So what happens when life tests everything that you've planned for, and when the financial planner suddenly becomes the one facing the toughest chapter of his own story? Today, I'm joined by someone who's lived the reality, Ryan Redman. He is a husband, father, triathlete, and financial planner who faced stage 3 cancer head on. And his journey is one of strength, clarity, and purpose. And it's full of lessons for every advisor and person, not just advisors, but whoever wondered what their work really means when life gets very, very real. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Warm welcome back. Here we are in November. Can you believe it? I think, what's today, the 7th? Yes, so last time we were here, it was the end of October. Hence, it is now the first time I'm saying that this is November. I can't believe that. So looking forward to a great show. Thank you very much for still being here. We've got now, 3 episodes left. So it's this one today, and then there's 2 more to go. And then we end off on the 21st of November. And it's been a fantastic ride. So where will we be? 38, 39, 40. So another 40 episodes for season 6. Can you believe that? Time flies. It feels like yesterday when we opened and we said, our theme for the year is explore. And here we are. So fresh back from the FBI convention. Massive congratulations to the entire FBI team. It is a grueling task to not only organize something like that, but to manage it is an absolute monster of a task. And I think job very, very well done. I really enjoyed it. Especially day 2 was the day that stood out for me. It was just the one thing after the next. It was really, really cool. Everything was great, but day 2 for me was the day. But anyway, so if you were there and I happened to have had the chance to say hi to you, thank you very much for chatting with me and everybody who obviously came out. So with that, today it's not about me or the FBI or any of that. It is today about Ryan Redman, and looking forward to a fantastic episode with him, digging into his journey. Something I've got a little bit of a sense about because we went through something similar, but as much as something is similar, it's so different. And I'm really excited to get into the conversation, all the lessons that he's learned, and all of that. So, and what that means for you and me. So looking forward to that. Obviously, we are here with the latest news. Lelani in the person is here as well. Lelani, welcome. Looking forward to hear what happened while we were having conferences, what was happening elsewhere. And then we've also got Dr. Tians Mans back today, continuing with smart moves, and today sort of continuing on with his topic about ruling from the grave, but looking more at the solution side of things and how could we do if we have to. I've got some stuff about building with AI. As I sit here, I'll be honest, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. We'll see. So if you've got any questions about AI, let me know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, and then Lene is here. Oh, well, Lene is here in the different form today, so we'll see. Just having some fun on the show, and then I'm going to chat to you right. So let me not waste any time. Let me say a warm good morning very quickly to everybody today. First in the house for the first time ever, Mr. Johan Piens. Good morning. Nice to see you, JP. Quibus in second. Good morning. Nice to see you. Nicholas, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Elmin, good morning. Thanks for saying hi. We've got Mkalisi. Good morning. Nice to see you. Frederic, good morning. Nikki is here. Good morning. Probably somewhere, hopefully on a beach, Nikki, with a cocktail. Well, that's not true. I know you're working. Ben says, fantastic Friday. Greg, good morning. Thanks for saying hi. Razan, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Mary, good morning. Warm good morning. Razan is just correcting herself there. We've got Chriswell, good morning. Nice to see you. Lalani saying good morning to everyone. We've got Neil Phillips in the house. Good morning, Neil. Ferdi, good morning. Nice to see you. We've got Nelson. Good morning, Nelson. Warm welcome here to the show. Salome, goeiemôre. Goed om jou te sien. Nigel, good morning. Nice to see you as well. And we've got Mr. Jaco Roots, goeiemôre. Righty, so ladies and gents, let's get this show on the road. If your friends are not here, send them the WhatsApp right now with the link because they need to be here. This is going to be one inspiring episode. But first off, here is Leilani with the latest news.
Yes, good morning, Fransha, and everybody in the house. And a big shout out, Fransha. Thank you so much for being one of the speakers at the FPI's 35th annual convention. And everybody that attended, whether it was online, in person, thank you so much for your support. And I'm ready for the 2026 convention already, which will be in Cape Town, 7 and 8 October next year. But with that, Fransha, let's start to see what happened whilst the world was standing still at Salmon Convention Center earlier this week. So the Financial Services Tribunal, this is a very interesting case, dismissed an application by Jaden Jacobs, a former representative of Sanlam, who sought to overturn his debarment issued in May earlier this year. Now, Sanlam's forensic team found, an investigation found that Jacobs allowed his brother Jakes. So we're working with Jaden and Jakes. He allowed his brother Jakes, who himself was debarred in 2023, to actually work with the clients, to give them quotes, to give them advice and everything else. And then what Jakes did, the brother that was debarred, he would then invoice Jaden for the majority of the commission. Now, Jaden argued that his brother only provided administrative help and that no clients were actually harmed. It sounds like a movie, no animals were harmed, but anyway, no clients were harmed. However, the tribunal found that the evidence clearly showed that the brother was rendering advice. Now, this was Jake's debate in 2023. The evidence showed that he was rendering advice and that Jaden acted dishonestly by trying to conceal the arrangement. Now, what I find interesting with this case is that Jake, who was debarred in 2023, the financial institution, that I mentioned, then just handed the clients to Jaden. So that's what happened here, Jaden and Jakes, and then the tribunal ruled that Sanlam had followed a fair process and that the debarment was both procedurally and substantially fair. So the Financial Services Tribunal then reaffirmed that financial services providers are legally obliged to debar anyone who no longer meets the fit and proper requirements. That's quite an interesting brother story there. Then the FSCA has issued 3 public warnings that is of importance. And why do they issue these public warnings? I thought I'll just quickly jump into that this morning. The Financial Sector Conduct Authority has a financial education plan, which they have. So the financial, which they call FEP, and part of the outcomes or the KPIs in the FEP financial education plan is that they need to warn the public about fraudsters. So the first one is Daniel Karabu Shabalala, who was found soliciting funds from the public for investment purposes via Instagram, offering trading signals and services. So he's not authorized by the FSCA to provide financial services, and he failed to respond to any of the FSCA's inquiries. Then we have Mr. Joash Naidu, who offered copy trading and forex signals, claiming that 1,000 Rand investment could yield 16,000 in 24 hours. I say that again, that 1,000 Rand could yield 16,000 in just 24 hours. Now, he falsely claimed affiliation with TD Markets Pty Limited, who obviously denied any connection to Naidu. So Josh Naidu is unauthorized to provide financial services under any financial services law, and he also did not respond to any of the FSCA's inquiries, which obviously then results in the public warning. Then the last warning was Fast Track Global Trade, who operated a website promoting investment plans with daily returns of 98% and a charge of 15% withdrawal fees on any profits. Entity obviously is not authorized to provide financial services in South Africa and made unrealistic return promises. I mean, 98% on a daily basis, sure, which is then a common sign of obviously fraudulent schemes. FSCA was also unable to reach the company for comment. Then maybe in closing from my side, there is a new pension funds adjudicator in the House. The Minister of Finance has announced the appointment of Mr. Lebogang Paul Mogashwa as the new pension funds adjudicator effective 8 December this year for a 3-year term. Mr. Mogashwa brings 17 years of experience in pension fund law, governance, and administration. He previously served as the Deputy Principal Executive Officer and Company Secretary at the Eskom Pension and Provident Fund, and earlier worked actually at the Pension Fund's adjudicator as a Senior Assistant Adjudicator. He's an admitted advocate. He holds an LLB as well as an LLM, and he has a Master of Management from Wits University. The Minister of Finance congratulated Mr. Mogashwa and thanked the outgoing adjudicator, Ms. Muvanka Antoinette Lukamane, for exceptional leadership and contribution to the Pension Funds Office. Again, thank you, Francois, to everybody who attended our convention, and we look forward to make more announcements about annual refresher that will kick off in Q1 2026. With that, have an absolute blessed Friday. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Lelani, and 2 more to go, and hopefully we'll get double trouble back for the last episode. So there's just planting a little seed there. Wink, wink. With that, next up we have Dr. Tiens Mans with Smart Moves, and today looking a little bit more on the solution side of ruling from the grave, and looking forward to what he has got to share.
Good morning, everybody, all the way from Rosebank. I've read in the comments from Mr. Piens that it's quite chilly in Gauteng currently, and he's quite right. It is quite chilly. It's been a chilly season. I can confess that I haven't seen any mosquitoes, so that's quite good, but it's been chilly. I like this. As you know, my name is Tiens Mans, and my segment explores bold moves for estate planning issues, but those difficult, hairy estate planning issues that we face sometimes, not all the times, with clients. And during my segments last month, I've tackled a little bit exploring from the grave and what it means, and specifically in the context of a trust. And as luck will have it, this week, across my desk, a situation of a client. Now, it's not my client, the situation, but he shared with me, he thinks a trust is evil, and you know I like trust. I think it's a wonderful instrument to solve and tackle estate planning issues. But this specific client, he told me, I think a trust is an evil thing. And I told Mr. Client, why do you think so? And he said, no, one of my colleagues is a shareholder in the business. We needed his trust to do some stuff, do the normal stuff, sign a resolution here and there, and it's normal business of the day. And the independent trustee needed to sign something. And the independent trustee, which is a lawyer, said, I will sign this resolution if you comply with my shopping list. My shopping list is toothpaste, deodorant. I'm not making this up. This is a true story. Toothpaste, deodorant, a bit of toilet paper, etc., and send it to my jail cell. Then I will sign the resolution. Now, the Trust Property Control Act is quite clear. You obviously can't be an independent trustee if you are in jail, but I thought this is a funny situation to share with you guys, that there were actual situations where the independent trustee wasn't removed as a trustee yet, and he was in jail, and he actually had a shopping list before he would sign that document as trustee. But nevertheless, ruling from the grave. Let's just move a little bit back, and I want to remind you what ruling from the grave is, what I've shared last time. Ruling from the grave typically is when someone wants to control his assets after death, right? And we get it so much in a trust, where someone has assets hosted in the trust, a big businessman or a farmer, whatever the case might be, and he said, I want my trust assets to be distributed, or the profits or the capital income of the trust must be distributed as follow according to a formula, and he will put it in his will. And the trust deeds, sometimes, usually you can look in trust deeds, and you will be surprised how many trust deeds makes provision for this, especially all the trusts will make provisions for this. Usually at the end of the trust deed, you will find that type of provision there. That's a big no-no. I've told you that last time. Why? There's estate duty implications for that. The Estate Duty Act is quite clear under Section 3 that property deemed to be property, which you can control direct or indirectly, obviously the testator can control the property in this instance, can be deemed property in the estate of the deceased, and that is estate duty consequences, or rather the risk. This should be tested in the court, but rather the risk on that. And that's a no-no. We don't want, usually we tell each other, it will never happen to me. My client, it will never be my client. But I promise you this, you don't want to be the one that stands in court and in the court documents, your name is there as well, and it was your client. Don't be that guy. I think be on the lookout for that. Now, what is the solution? It's easier said than done, because I work with a lot of big businessmen, and usually this is how they operate. They say, I built this business, and this is what's going to happen. This is how the stuff is going to distribute during my death, and it is in a trust. So how do we solve this if the situation is quite clear how the guy wants to do it? Now, obviously, he can say in his will, this is what I want to happen, but then he must be happy with the state duty consequences. If we want to manage that risk, another way to do this, and I want to give you a scenario, a typical scenario that you get in business, or let's go to the farming community, because I think the farming community is a great place for this, where a farmer has a farming operation, a big farming operation, and his son is part of the farming operation. His son is putting in the sweat equity, doing the work, and he has a daughter. The daughter has moved abroad with no intention to return back to South Africa. Now, in a typical situation, parents will say, I want my estate or my assets, my life's work, to be divided 50-50 between my two children. I mean, that's normal. Every parent would want that for their children. But in this instance, I think you will agree with me, 50-50 doesn't necessarily equate to son, you get 50, daughter, you get 50, because the son has put in his life's work as well in that farm, while the daughter has done nothing. So 50-50 isn't 50-50 anymore. And the problem of this is an actual scenario. And this will either result in a big family fight once that father passes away, or in a court case. I've seen both in my life, a court case and a big family fight. And you can imagine why, because the son will obviously feel, no, this is not fair towards me. Now, the solution to this, a possible solution, there's two. If I put on my financial advisor hat, you can obviously buy out the daughter. There's life cover, you can put in life cover. It will typically be something in the line of a type of buy and sell type of vibes I'm going here. You can do that too. That will work. I've seen that many times as well. But what if the daughter, and I've seen that before in my own family. I'm an example of this. The daughter say, listen here, but there's sentiment in that farm. That's where I've learned how to ride a bike. I've learned how to ride a car on that farm. I don't want to lose the family farm. I love the place, but I don't want to work there. So what now? Now, you can't buy out the daughter. The solution is a possible solution, at least, is a family constitution. Now, what is a family constitution? I want to read this so I don't miss the important parts here. A family constitution is a document that describes the family values and goals in terms of wealth, and clearly documents how to handle conflict and how to determine fair remuneration for family members. Now, this is especially relevant when the dynamics of a family change. When dynamics change in terms of everybody gets married, the children, and they get children. There's grandchildren now. Now that dynamics is changing, there's other people involved as well. So it is a very wise decision in instances of big businessmen, and especially big farmers that host their business in a trust, to sort of get this type of document in place, to say, this is how we're going to govern our family, our wealth. This is the idea, the guidelines. That's not clearly what I'm saying here. The guidelines. This is not a binding contract. This is guidelines that the parents, the mother and the father, wants their children to follow. The moment we make this binding as a contract, we're back at square one. Section 3 of the State Duty Act, deemed property, etc., etc. So this is a good place, and hopefully, it will provide this map going forward for your children going forward. I've done this many times before. It's a great solution, especially if you get all the children involved. And in my experience, the best way to do it, as the family extend, the dynamics of the family extend, we pick this document up again and we say, listen here, guys, this is the family constitution. New family members that join the family, this is how it works. Please give your inputs on this. And another clear thing I want to end off of this is the guy that managed this stuff. A great idea will be, typically, I think financial advisors have great place to play here between a lawyer and the auditor to put the documents of this together and be the main pin of this, that everybody in the family knows that, Mr. Financial Advisor, you are the one that had done this. I'm not quite happy with this, and sort of play the middleman here. Guys, I'm going to leave you with this. Thank you very much for joining me. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Tiens. I really appreciate that. That was so practical and really, really useful. Please do check. I see there's a couple of comments in the comments, so you're welcome to answer there. And with that, let's see what happens in Build with AI with moi. Let's see. It's funny that doesn't matter how much there is to talk about AI. And I think that's sort of also the thing that I found quite daunting with my talk at the FBI convention is like, there's so much to talk about. And then not only is there so much to talk about, it changes every minute. So you come up with an idea and then you like a day before something happens, it's like, oh no. And then even like something, for example, that I saw with ChatGPT, like the day before the convention, so which was this week, Monday, they came out and published that that ChatGPT is going to stop giving legal, financial, and health advice as such, and is only going to focus on education, which is quite an interesting sort of move that they are pulling there. Great to hear that that's the case, right? Still, hopefully, hope that all the education is actually on point, but that is just an interesting thing. Looking at something like Claude, clearly stating that they are enterprise first. So as much as people love Claude, all of the cool stuff happens for big businesses, and that's their main focus. So you start figuring out how things are changing and evolving and what's important to different people. But my job is to make AI as simple as possible for you in plain language so that it's something that isn't daunting, that you're not afraid of, and that you don't sit there and do nothing. I've said this so many times before, is that we can no longer do nothing. That is where we find ourselves. And this is really, really important for me. And I've been thinking about why am I talking about AI so much? And many people don't know my background, and many people don't know where I'm coming from and why this is something that's really important to me. So in one of the episodes, I will sort of discuss a little bit more about that, but what is my thing exactly? When it comes to AI, it's something that the day that it came out, right? So I've got a very long technical background. I studied BSc computer science back in the day. I never finished. I was one of those guys, but it's always been my interest since school. Since I was 10 years old, I started with tech, and it's never gone away. It's never stopped. I've always done the amount of things I know because I play with this stuff is actually sometimes really, really, it doesn't scare me, but it is just sometimes I sit back and I think how did that even happen? But I've got a real passion for this stuff. So it's not just coming from is this the latest thing to go and talk about? That's not what it's about. This is about saying, well, just like I missed when cell phones came, that this is going to be a big thing. Didn't make much of it. I thought it was cool to have a Nokia 3310 back in the day. The internet before that even, or at the same time, more or less, I guess, that was something, I love this little box that's screaming here, and I can now see information on the internet, and I don't have to go to a library, but I never made really much of it. Even when the iPhone came, it was very cool not to have a keyboard, but that wasn't something that dawned on me this is going to become big. The difference being that the day that I saw ChatGPT and I sort of had my first interaction with it, I was like, this is going to change everything. And through this journey, I played with this so much. It took me about 2 years before I really started talking about this to really show people. But I've been playing with this quite a bit, and we started doing training for people because I just was able to see this is where it's going. And this isn't something that is going to happen with or without, only if I decide that it's going to happen. This is happening with or without me. This is happening with or without you. And that's really the important part here with AI, is to say, well, if we want to be relevant in the future, if we want to make sure that we build great businesses, if we make sure that we are on this journey with our clients, then we cannot sit here and wait and see what is going to happen. But that said, okay, one thing that I want to leave or sort of share with you this morning is that this is not about rushing in and just starting to use this stuff because you are falling behind, because you are absolutely not falling behind. Gartner recently published a graph. It's not a whole article, but with that was a nice little graph that shows the adoption gap. And that adoption gap is really about the speed at which the providers, the ChatGPT or the OpenAIs and the Anthropics and the Googles and so forth, are building their models and are building what is possible and sort of the things that they're focusing on. They are in a race to build the biggest, best thing ever. But at the same time, there's also the outcomes that we are looking for. And we sit here and we go like, there's all these promises, but I'm not seeing the results yet. I can't see where I'm going to use this. I can't see how I'm going to use this. And that's really sort of a reality that we all sit with. Hence why I did not say much for 2 years, because like I was still figuring out, like, how do we use this in practice? You know, it's cool to say, write me a little poem. I mean, that's funny, and write me a little this and a little that. But once it gets into business, and then there's this whole new world that opened up this year for me around like the ethical side of it and the responsibility side of it. And just sort of thinking about how do I use this properly, if you will, and not put myself and my business at risk. You know, it's fine if it's just you, but once there's lots of people depending on you, and there's lots of things happening, then you can't really just willy-nilly jump into things. So those are the kinds of things. But back to the adoption gap. So you've got the providers who sort of, that graph is very, very steep because they are really in a race against each other. So they're pushing and pushing and pushing, and they're going there, but we are following very slowly. So we're going down, like, so it's not going down, but that curve is much smaller. So that gap, like what these models are so-called capable of and what we use it for and how much we use it, there's a massive gap there. So that's a long one. So hence, you need to worry about where you are relevant or in relation to other customers and so-called AI customers or your peers or your competition, etc. Don't worry about what the AI companies are saying. I think that's a really, really important thing. So my message today, there was something else I wanted to say, but I'm going to skip that. But my message today is just this, is that one, you're not late, but most importantly is that you cannot do nothing. You cannot sit there and say, I'm going to wait and see. Not going to work. It doesn't work any longer. You have to learn, you have to experience, you have to be interested. And this whole notion around like, oh, I'm before computers, it's out the window, because you can speak to the computer the way that we communicate with each other. You don't need to learn the language of the computer. It went ahead and learned your language. So no more excuses. Alrighty, so here's some one quick announcement, I think. So running towards the end of the year, it's there's luckily not too much going on anymore, but still, I think there's an important message from an important person.
Guess what, boys in the family? I'm back! And happy Friday. Let's do some quick announcements.
Wait. Are you doing my quick announcements this week?
Yes, the people want me back.
Well, okay then. I guess you've earned it.
So first up, if you haven't joined the PROpulsion community yet, what are you even doing? It's full of courses, workshops, and huddles, and master classes. Everything we need to grow. And the best part, you can do it anytime you want, even if you're relaxing. Next time is a big one. AI plus fly. Our brand new community for turning AI ambition into real-world action. The waitlist is open. Go join now. Quickly link in the description. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Because of PROpulsion, we're all about learning, laughing, and leveling up. Now I'm manifesting my next CPD session. Goodbye.
So joining me today is Ryan Redman. He's a director at, and Ryan, I never checked with you how to pronounce this, whether I may say the PIMS group. That's, I don't know if it's PIMS or PIMS or whatever. We'll figure that out now when we go live. But he is a director and a certified financial planner there as well. Ryan is a husband, he's a father, and a former triathlete who's faced one of life's biggest tests, stage 3 cancer. And through that experience, he's gained new perspective on life, purpose, and what financial planning really means when it matters most. So today, he's here to share his story of strength and purpose and the powerful lessons it holds for all of us as advisors and as people. Ryan, warm welcome to Propulsion Live.
Good morning, Francois, and to your listeners. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a big pleasure. I'm looking forward to this conversation with you. Hopefully, so let's just get this out of the way, right? So how do I pronounce the business's name correctly? I know that it's actually a much longer name. That's sort of an abbreviation, but what's the right word or the right way?
Yeah, it's PIMS, but not the drink. There's one M.
Yeah, but easy to remember, right?
Yeah, much easier way to remember. We'll have to have a PIMS party at the end of the year.
Yes, absolutely. Ryan, let's get into it, right? We've got about 30 minutes, and I really want to cover as much of your story and specifically your journey as much as possible. So when you first heard your diagnosis, what went through your mind? Not just as an advisor or a planner saying, like we sort of know it from a technical point of view and what it means, but as a husband and a father, like what was that? What went through your mind?
Sure. It was almost like a movie scene in the sense that, the doctor comes in and, I had these crazy night sweats at the end of last year and went to the doctor and we did some blood tests and they immediately admitted me to hospital. They just said, my immune system is finished. I need to get admitted straight away and be isolated away from people. And then the testing started on the Monday. And before I know it, I had the doctor in front of me saying, you have cancer. And I was 39 at the time, and it's not exactly something, you'd expect to hear when you're younger than that, like that. And I think it was a big shockwave in my network because being so fit, having raced triathlons abroad and represented South Africa and just always had a healthy lifestyle. If you look at YouTube videos about, how do you avoid cancer, I tick every box. So it was quite a shock, and we can maybe get into some of the reasons why I think it happened, and something maybe as a warning to everybody here as well, just to manage your stress levels. I think that the world is just high-paced, and chronic stress is something we all need to be very careful of. And I think that's underlying from what happened last year before I got the diagnosis, I think is what triggered at the end. But yeah, it was one of those movie scenes where like the room just went blurred. You just hear the doctor saying, you have cancer over and over. He was talking away and I didn't hear anything else he said after that. It took a while to sort of stomach what he just said. Yeah. We can't hear you, Francois.
Sorry. So I was unmuted, and then as I start talking, I mute myself. Anyway, so my question is, so when he shared this news, did he call it cancer or did he call it Hodgkin's lymphoma? Like what was the exact words that he used sort of when he was relaying this to you?
Yeah, so he said it's Hodgkin's lymphoma, which at first you don't know what that is, but then straight away he said it's a type of cancer, and they didn't know the staging at that stage. We were waiting for the results from our bone marrow test, but yeah, it was definitely the cancer. So it was quite the news. Yeah.
And then I mean you were alluding to some of the reasons why you think this happened. So. I mean, was that something that was sort of like in a short period of time before this happened? So I want to unpack a little bit more. I mean, you did sort of mention stress, etc., but was it for a short period of time or was it over a long period of time? And what were the things? Because it's always this is the amazing thing. When you are in it, you don't recognize it, but once you sort of get to where you were and you look back and then you say, and you can sort of start pinpointing. What are the things that you pinpointed? And just share us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of long-term things and short-term as well. But it's also a factor of things that you can control and things you can't control. So, for example, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I had COVID before the vaccines, and I had the vaccines, and the hormones that are in our foods, and there's lots of things going on. And I think everybody, I mean, most people listening today are probably sitting in a slight state of burnout, or looking forward to the end of the year, and those are all signs that we need to be careful of. If you've got to be aware of that. And in our case last year, so I mean, the year started fantastically. I did an extreme triathlon that took 23 hours to do. It was all raising money, and we raised a lot of money, which is awesome. And then I was on your global financial planning, also the speaker and influencer course, and then spoke at the global financial planning conference, and that was amazing. And 2 weeks later, I became a father. So the first half of the year went, to plan. It was perfect. But then the next day, my wife was struggling with, pains in her stomach, and it very quickly turned ugly, and from the complications from the childbirth. And she spent 5 days in high care, and it was very touch and go the one night. And then we had 15 days in hospital for that. And then she needed, I mean, without having a newborn, they said it'll take 6 months to recover. So add that fact of not being able to sleep properly and running around with a newborn, it's, she needed more time than that. And then after that, our son also had complications with reflux, and we tried all the normal routes to try and, non-invasive stuff to get it sorted out, and we just weren't winning. And there's obviously a lot of question marks there, and that's quite stressful as well. So there was the stress of both of them, and he had multiple operations to get himself sorted out. And thankfully he's all fine, and Rainey's all fine today as well. And in amongst all of that, that's when these night sweats started. And I think the, stress I've seen for a lot of people that have had cancer, they've had some quite stressful things beforehand, be it loss of family or divorces or lost their business or something along those sort of lines. And, those stress, that level of stress, I think, weakens your immune system. They found Epstein-Barr virus in my system as well, which apparently 90% of us have sitting dormant. So that flared up. And I think, we've all got cancerous cells in our body all the time that our body sorts out, naturally through our immune systems. And I think in this case, because, we had a newborn, I wasn't sleeping, there was the stress, there was the Epstein-Barr, it all just weakened my immune system, and it just opened the floodgates. So it's something that I focused hard on now. And there was actually a quote that I came across during the treatment, and it went, when you're healthy, you got 1,000 problems. We all think we got all these things that are big problems in our lives, but, when you're unhealthy, you've got one problem. And that resonates so true. I mean, the second I found out that news, nothing else mattered. I had to get myself healthy. I had a 6-month-old kid, my wife, like everybody needed me. I've got my clients, like, my friends, I needed to be here. So very quickly after the shock, naturally I'm a positive and optimistic person, and I quickly switched it into sort of endurance mode. We take on these big challenges, and how are we going to just tackle this challenge? It's just something that needed to be sorted out and just start doing the right things.
Yeah, it's quite a journey, and it takes a lot of mind power, I think, because I think you fight that in your mind, right? So as much as it's quite interesting, healthy, fit, all that kind of stuff. But in the end, do you think it's was it more mind power? Was it more like, because I mean your body was fighting a thing, so how did you tackle this? Like, was it more from a just like talking to yourself all the time? Like, how did you tackle this practically? Like, just what did you go through every day?
So I think mindset is a big thing. And I think from all the endurance sports that I've done, so I always like these long distance things, because as much as it's physical, it actually more becomes about your mind. So I think without meaning it, I've been training, for decades for this, so I've sort of had that mental stubbornness, if you want to call it, to keep pushing through and carry on. But something interesting happened which I didn't expect to happen, and wasn't the intention, but I decided to be quite open about my journey, and I posted on Facebook and Instagram a lot, just so that my friends and everybody got the right stories, because I didn't want that broken down telephone effect happening, people getting the wrong thing, and then you're getting asked a million questions. And so by putting it out there, people could just refer onto my pages and see what was going on in the updates. And what happened then is, instead of people asking me questions, I was just getting messages of support. And what then also started happening is people that were going through different challenges themselves, I mean, be it cancer or just other, challenges in their lives, they were then reaching out to me privately and just having very open, vulnerable conversations with me. And I think I just felt comfortable because I was sharing my story. And it's the same now with all my clients. I've had very different conversations this year with my clients, and they've just been much more open in sharing. And not to say that they weren't, and I thought they were sharing nicely, but it's got on a much deeper level now. And maybe there's just more personal investment into everybody's stories after what I've gone through, and sharing my story with them each time as well, So by sharing that, then what was happening is I was getting these messages of encouragement, and I called it, was my army of support, and what that was doing is was creating a flywheel effect. So they were making me feel better with all these messages, which then meant I posted more positively and, and started leaning it to more of a motivational, inspiring sort of way. And then that would get them more excited about things, and then message me again, and it was just that proper flywheel, revving each other. And I was lucky too. I mean, if you're going to get a cancer, I was lucky to get Hodgkin's lymphoma because the prognosis is very high. So, I always knew from the get-go the likelihood was to get through this, and I'm now just short of 4 months in remission, so it's still pretty fresh. But it was always the likely case, but it was still a massive relief when that news came.
I can imagine. You talked about clients, etc., but how did your own financial plan sort of, got a bit tested here, right? So the stuff, I don't know whether you use a financial planner or whether you do your own planning. But I mean, how did that whole setup? Were you prepared for this unexpected thing? What was that?
Yeah, so fortunately, I mean, a lot of times we neglect our own plans, instead of, we're doing running around sorting out all our clients. And fortunately, in this case, we did have our ducks in a row. And it really taught me how important our role is to create peace of mind. That's the biggest thing that I'm taking away, is that our role is to create peace of mind for our clients. Whether it's, if they're asking about performance in their investments, it's because they want the peace of mind that they're going to be okay down the road. And, with all the policies and stuff as well, I wanted to make sure that our medical aid did the right things. And then, not that I do medical aids, but, it ticked the box. And our dread disease plan just meant that, and I mean, the treatment that I got, I mean, our insurance company, found out on the 3rd of January, I met with a hematologist who's a specialist oncologist in blood cancers. And he gave me the official news that it was stage 3. And then on the Monday, I got hold of my insurer and said, look, this is the story. They sent me the requirements. On Wednesday, I got all the reports and stuff from the doctor, submitted it through. And by Monday, they approved the claim. Tuesday, the money was in my account. So what it meant is that I didn't have to worry financially. A lot of the times we worried about how we're going to support our family and carry on running. And I didn't have to worry about any of that. And I'm still on the critical illness income payments at the moment, which has just given us so many options. It's I think a lot of the time, most of us are financially driven. We're numbers people in general, but it goes and in theory what it's going to help people do, but having lived it, I mean, the things that it allowed us, I mean, I was able to get onto the latest immunotherapy, which wasn't covered by medical aid, but we chose to take that treatment. I could have gone on to a different one, which would have been fully covered, but I opted for the latest stuff because it just had lower side effects during it, lower side effects afterwards, better prognosis. But it gave me the opportunity to do that. And also we managed to get a night nurse to help us at nights, because then Rainey and I could both sleep and recover, because that's what you need. You need that sleep to recover properly. And all these things gave us those opportunities, having these payouts help us along the way. And it's not just about the numbers, it's about what that creates, that peace of mind it creates for your clients afterwards.
Well, so just quickly before we move on, can you just sort of share what stage 3 means? I mean, obviously we all know there's 4 stages and all of that, but what is, I mean, did they explain to you exactly, or did you have to go and find out yourself what does stage 3 actually mean? If you can maybe just share a little bit about where the cancer was at that point in time when it was diagnosed. I mean, stage 3 is quite far down the line, right?
Yeah, so fortunately for Hodgkin's lymphoma, the staging doesn't matter so much. How they stage it is stage 1 is they found the cancer in one of your lymph nodes. Stage 2 is then they find it, in multiple lymph nodes above the diaphragm. Generally, it starts on the top. And then stage 3 is just above and below the diaphragm if they pick it up. So that's the stage where I was at. And then stage 4 would have been if they found it in my bone marrow as well. But with a lot of cancers, the conversation was very different between stage 1 and stage 4. Which Hodgkin's lymphoma, it's not the same case. The treatments can sort out all 4 stages, no problem. Now, there might be an extra round or 2 at the end for stage 3 and 4, but the advanced is the stage 3 and 4 side. So that's where it fitted in. But I mean, like you, I love tech. Through everything at ChatGPT, I was putting reports in. I mean, it was all my personal stuff, so it wasn't worried about Poppy and all that kind of stuff. So we've got to be careful with clients, obviously. But I got to shove all my stuff in there, and it was mind-blowing the amount of information and how much I learned, which then just armed me to have better conversations with my hematologist. I'm loving the tech at the moment. There's obviously risks, but there's a lot of positives in there, and I'm so excited about it all.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to jump into that in the next 5 minutes. So I do want to talk a little bit about that. We've had some interesting conversations and had some fun along the way as well. I mean, you mentioned now that obviously you've lived through this. You said, I know it's only been 4 months now, but how has this changed the way you talk with your clients? And now you've been on their side of the table, right? Their side of the hospital bed, their side of the, so how has this now changed the way that you approach or have conversations with clients? Is there a difference?
I've definitely been more vulnerable, in the sense that I've got a story to share. So I'm lucky in the sense that I can share that with clients now and explain what I went through and how it helped. And and obviously there's multiple different stories. I'm just talking about the dread disease side, but it still applies the same on income protection, on life cover, getting your will sorted out, all of the various aspects that we help our clients with. But, and I think by sharing my story, they've definitely opened up more. And a lot of my clients, are friends with me on my various social platforms, and they've been following the story along the way, and they've all been, so they're aware of a journey as an example. I mean, some of these insurers show these practical real life examples of what people have gone through, but you don't quite get it because it's somebody you don't know. Where now for myself, obviously I've lived it myself, but for my clients, they personally know me and they're getting to understand it, and they know that I understand it a little bit differently now, and my conversations more dive into what it helps you create rather than just the numbers. I think I was probably a bit guilty of that sometimes, where you focus on the numbers and you're trying to get this perfect plan, but it's not necessarily about the numbers. They help you so far, but it's what does the client want those numbers to do? What peace of mind are they looking for? And that looks different to everybody, So that's what I love about this industry, is every person is so different,
So one last question on this before we jump into the tech conversation is, knowing what you know now, is there any advice or anything that you now think you should have done this before you knew what this was like? So as the old Ryan, before Hodgkin's lymphoma, you're having these conversations with clients, et cetera, you had no story to share. Nothing's happened in that sense. So there was no real connection. As you said, everything has changed now. But how would you now, knowing what you know now, how would you or could you have done it differently? And sort of then, that becomes then advice for somebody who doesn't have a story like this, but they still want to convey the same kind of message. Is that possible? How would you do it? Maybe some thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's very tricky because it's, if you haven't been in it, it is hard to fully understand the full dynamics and emotions of it. But I think the detachment away from other stories, for a lot of people that don't know me listening today, they can't really understand fully as well. But what I would maybe encourage people to do is maybe just sit and reflect on the outcomes of your advice, but think of somebody that you know personally. Unfortunately, most people have friends or family that have gone through cancer these days. There's so much, or just any other big challenge that they've had. And just try and put yourself in their shoes, because they're a little bit closer to you and you know the dynamics of their family and how everything works. And just try and picture yourself there and what things would help, what mechanisms would help, like I've been mentioning now, to try and sort them out. And when you are sitting in front of a client, it can be hard when you've just met a new client. But as you build those relationships with clients, you understand more of the dynamics around that client's situation, and just try and really put yourselves in their shoes and think, okay, well, if this happens, this is what your wife is, and this is your kids, and this is your business partner, and this is how we need to get this sorted out, because these are the complications you're going to happen. And whenever you hear other stories from other people, just try and reflect back to and think of some of your clients that are in a similar situation and just apply that. It's if you can make it more real to yourself, then you can get the outcomes more relatable to them. And just because ultimately we're there to help the clients sort out those problems. Just really give them that peace of mind. Again, that's what I keep looping back to. It's just trying to create that peace of mind everywhere we go.
Yeah. And now I'm postponing the tech conversation. Hold on. You're also writing a book, as far as I know. Why and what?
Yeah, so it happened by mistake, and it's actually bringing us into the tech. Actually, it's a nice little warm up. So, I mean, I've always been in the sports field, and I went through sort of towards the end of my treatments. A lot of people started saying to me, "You need to write a book on the journey after all the posts that you've been putting up this year." And I was like, that's not something I've ever thought of. I'd rather be out in the sports field somewhere. And just one positive thing that came out as well, I mean, there's so many positives that came out of this journey I can't explain to you. But one of them in this instance is I got to really deep dive on the AI side. So, and I came across one of these videos where a guy was writing a book using ChatGPT as a co-author and helping with ideas and structures and how to plan the whole thing. And so what I did is just for fun. And what you were talking about earlier is people mustn't be overwhelmed by AI. Just go and play it. So I literally played with the personal aspect in this case. And I just started throwing all my Facebook posts into it, and it started learning how I write. It learned about my story. I then stuck it while I was driving around to conferences, and that I would stick it in conversation mode and just get it to ask me questions, give me ideas, talk about things. And I was basically having a conversation with ChatGPT about this. And after doing that for, it wasn't even long, 2 or 3 weeks, I then asked it to help me create the first draft. And it was fairly bare bones, and I've been working on it a bit more since then. But I was blown away by what it suggested. The story is it's a bit of a memoir / motivational, because I want to use it as a motivational for not just people going through cancer, but just challenges in life. And it gives practical frameworks in the appendices, and it's using my story as the example. But I mean, each chapter's got a quote to begin with, which kind of sets the tone of what the chapter's about, and then it goes through my story, and then there's lessons learned at the end. And then it sort of just runs away through about the shock of it all, and it starts turning into motivational side, and then obviously the euphoria of getting it done, and now life afterwards. That people forget that once you've finished the treatment and you're now in remission, that's not the end of it. I mean, there's been lots of scares and stuff. I've been chatting to a lot of people that have been in a similar story and time frame as me, and there's lots of funny scares that we have afterwards. I mean, my first checkup after 3 months, my chemo port that was in my chest, they kept it there longer just in case it comes back so we can treat quickly, and it had blocked itself. So then I had to go and see surgeons and get it taken out because it was pointless being there anymore. And then I got shingles after that. And, so it's like one thing after the next, but I mean, those are all minor things compared to the bigger picture of the whole thing. So it just wasn't stressing me out. It was back to that quote that I mentioned earlier. Yeah.
So let's talk about tech. Finally, we've got about 5 minutes. So tell me about your journey. I mean, you've always loved tech. Tech is something that you've been always open to, etc. And just maybe practically, I mean, how are you using it? I mean, I know we do lots of fun stuff, and we send each other video clips and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. But how are you using tech, and what tech is really useful for you, from that point of view? And just how do you approach it from your practices point of view?
Yeah, so I think, there are a lot of people that are worried about AI sort of taking their job, and to a degree it'll sort out all the admin stuff that we shouldn't really be spending our time on anyway. It's just going to automate things and remove any human error out of those as well. And for me, the big thing, I mean, the best example I can probably give is using transcription services. So, if you're sitting there recording your meeting with your client, and I've had no clients object to this, by the way, they've all been super happy. And it's, the way I pitched it to them, I said, look, it's not about us trying to catch each other out or anything like that. It's just literally that's busy taking far more detailed notes than I can sit and scribble here. And then I can fully engage and talk to you. So you're thinking about the conversation you're having with them, not trying to scribble down notes. And then afterwards, that you can drop it into, obviously got to use the right AI systems, that are, not in breach of POPI and all the acts that we're going to follow. But that gives amazing summaries that you can then drop into an email and send straight to the client. Within 10, 15 minutes, you can have, you double checking the whole thing, because you've got to treat it like a junior assistant. It's going to make mistakes. It's super clever, excited to help you out, but it's going to make mistakes. So you've got to double check everything. And then you send that off. And I've just been getting rate my service excellence like mad the last couple of weeks, because clients are so impressed with the level of detail that's coming through, and it's got all the action points in there. And to take that a step further, then I've actually been asking the AI to analyze my advice. How did that meeting go? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And if I start seeing trends, I'll get AI to start giving me courses just to buff up any weaknesses that I'm missing. And there's so many, and what I'm finding with AI is, don't just, I'm looking across industries to see what people are doing with it, because you can then say, hey, that's really clever. How can I adapt that to fit in our industry? And it's actually more about your creativity. Once you've got your data feeding in a secure way into AI, there's so much you can do it. I mean, the power is just endless, and it's up to your creativity and how you can think of clever ways of using it. So, and we've got tons of ideas that we're busy playing with at the moment. But our testing, and like I said earlier, everybody should just be playing around in a fun way, because you realize what it can and can't do. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, how can I apply this to clients to create more value and get more peace of mind for everybody? Yeah.
I think the one thing that, and rightly so, because I know in the beginning, even if you look at any of the surveys being done, doesn't matter who do it, whether it's us doing it, or whether it's the FPSB with their one, or whether it's the FSCA, doesn't matter who's doing these AI surveys. It comes back that in financial advice, the number one concern is data privacy. That is the biggest concern, and probably the reason why most people have not veered down this road. And I think that's the right thing. If you don't know how this works, or what you can and can't do, or should or shouldn't do, then rather learn that first, right? How did you go about sort of trying to figure that out? Because that is the funny thing. You mentioned it earlier, and I was just chuckling inside, because I think I said it the other day in another session that I was at, that, we are extremely concerned about data privacy, but the clients don't care about their own stuff. But we don't have the right to put theirs. You have the right to put your own information in there. I did it with my knee replacement. I've got all the scans, all the reports, all the blood works, all the stuff has gone into ChatGPT, and I've been having conversations with it. I don't care. I need answers, and I want to make sure I'm making the right decision, or at least an informed decision as much as possible. At least I can have a great conversation with my surgeon. And that's the power of it. But you and I don't have the right to go take your stuff and put it into ChatGPT, right? But how do you go about sort of making sure that you're not overstepping, Ryan? What are the things that you look at?
Yeah, so earlier this year, you crushed my world. I was so excited about all these ideas using ChatGPT, and then the privacy issue came up, and I was like, oh no, everything fell apart. So obviously listening to all your shows and your tech summit and that, and that's helped a lot. And I've just tried to listen a lot. And like you said, I've ChatGPT always knows way too much about me. I've got the paid subscription for 6 months now, and it knows so much. I'll be talking about something else, and suddenly in an answer it brings up about your recovery and this and that. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even think of it from that angle, but that's what it's throwing at me. And so what I've done is, so we've got another AI CRM system that we're busy playing with behind the scenes at the moment, and that one is a South African-based, AI system, and all the data sitting in Joburg servers, and so you just got to ask the questions about, and we obviously did a lot of due diligence with them, and I was asking ChatGPT, what acts do we need to be careful of? What I need to worry about? Asking people like yourself, other industry experts and stuff that can allude to these. And a lot of the conversations at conferences online and webinars talk about this all the time. So just keep thinking about and taking notes of all these potential problems we could have for clients, and just really build carefully. So definitely play a lot with all your personal stuff, but be cautious when you're using client stuff. and try and find something that you can use in South Africa, because to go and sanitize information to then go and put into something that's global is a mission to do, and then it's a mission to bring it back. So if you can use something that's local and doing it for you, and you can put the right information straight in, it's just going to make your life easier, which is just going to free you up to have more time for important things, spending time with my son and my family and friends and getting outdoors. And, instead of sitting here now, normally I'm sitting on the bike at Virgin Active listening to PROpulsion Live. So I'm getting a bit of exercise and listening and just trying to get some balance, but then you're also freeing up your time to think more carefully about your clients. You're not worrying about the admin so much, you're focusing on the bigger picture, and you can deep dive and think about all the implications that happen. And just asking questions without using a name in things like ChatGPT can really spark some ideas that you might not have thought of otherwise. And now that we've got this new system coming in, we can start putting actual clients' information in, and it's so powerful what information we're getting back. I mean, the other day, because I don't do medical aids, Sam in our office does medical aids. So after the meeting, we'd briefly spoken about it, but I wasn't overly thinking about it. So, about the medical aid side of the conversation, I was thinking about his buy and sells he was concerned about. And after the meeting, I just asked the AI after I did the transcription, what did we talk about that, on medical aids? Bang, this huge summary came up about all the implications, and it pulled other things from the conversation that might be relevant. And so I downloaded that to Word, emailed it to Sam, and said, here's a prompt for you to go and work on, before you phone the client. So, but now you've already got a lot of information to be more meaningful in the conversation.
Yeah, awesome. Ryan, we are out of time. We are a little bit over time now. So just my last question then to you is I would really like to delve deeper into this whole tech conversation, but we can make a plan. But after everything that you've faced, right, let me just bring it back to the core message of today. How has your idea of success changed, and what would you want, advisors and planners to take away from your journey today and your message today?
Yeah, so success is different for everybody, and I think when we're young, we see the guy with the Ferrari, and we want to get ourselves to that stage. But I think as we get a bit older and hopefully wiser, we start seeing things a little bit differently, and you realize that guy hiking up Lion's Head on Tuesday morning, that is an amazing success story. It means you've got all your ducks in a row, you've got your systems in place, that you've got the time to spend with quality time with your family and friends, and having time off and not getting overly stressed. And don't get me wrong, there's always stressful times and things we've got to sort out. But, just analyze the systems that you're using and try and streamline things better. I think advisors often hang on to too much of their own stuff. You need to empower your team, put the right systems in place, do the training. And, this year I had a lot of time off of work, and, I needed sleep, and the chemo brain was wild, so I couldn't think properly half the time. But the team was amazing. They picked up and just ran with things, and it was really encouraging to see it. And it flared up a lot of system things we needed to update, and some extra training we need to do here and there. And it just makes things better and better, and frees you up to work on the business, not in the business. That's the big thing there. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Ryan, thank you so much. If anybody wants to connect with Ryan, you know what to do. LinkedIn, right? That's the answer. We don't ask people anymore. We're like, where can people get hold of you? LinkedIn. So go and follow Ryan on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, whatever's your poison of choice. Go and follow him there, and you're obviously welcome to connect with him. Ryan, just a massive thank you. Congratulations on where you are today. I know the journey is still on. It's not done yet, because it is something that, as you go through the checkups and all of it, so I do understand that it is an ongoing journey. But thank you very much for sharing that, and for the inspiration, and well done. Yeah, and congrats on where you are today.
Thank you very much, Francois. I appreciate the opportunity to share. Hope it helped.
Very much. I'm sure you don't mind that we went over a little bit today, but thank you very much for joining us live. Really appreciate that. We did note the comments here, so there are a few things. So Ryan, you can also go look at the comments and maybe respond to some of those. Obviously, people are asking what note taker you're using, etc., etc. So you can go and answer that. My guest next week, the second last episode of the year, is Karabu Huma. I hope I'm pronouncing that name yet. I haven't met her in person yet, but she's got a fascinating story. She's a youngster finding her way in the financial planning profession, and I'm really excited to be talking to her next week and hearing what it's like for her as a young person in this profession. What is the experience like? What is it that she really wants to do? Why did she? So many questions. So come and join us next week, same time, same place. So on that note, have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper, and stay curious and continue to raise the bar. Thank you very much. Love you lots. Bye-bye.